The Galactic Consortium's deep scan probe returned its data at 0300 station time, and by 0305, every scientist aboard the Eternal Inquiry was awake. Vaylor's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a xanthary reflex that occurred only during moments of extreme distress. He stared at the holographic readout hovering above his workstation, its crimson warning stacking like a funeral pyre. Classification: Deathworld, Tier 14. Survival probability for carbon-based life, 0.003%. Recommendation: immediate quarantine zone designation. This cannot be correct, Vaylor whispered, his secondary vocal cords humming with disbelief. He ran the diagnostic again. Then a third time. The planet designated KX-7 Mortalis returned identical readings each time. Atmospheric pressure at surface level, 42 times galactic standard. Gravity, 3.8 times consensus norm. Surface temperature fluctuations ranging from -80 degrees to +310 within a single planetary rotation. Electrical storm systems permanently embedded in the upper atmosphere, discharging bolts of energy powerful enough to vaporize a consortium shuttle. Tectonic instability rated catastrophic. Megafauna predator density, extreme. Microbial threat index, off the measurable scale. And yet. Vaylor zoomed the probe's optical sensor toward the planet's third largest landmass. Cities. Unmistakably, definitively, impossibly, cities. The Emergency Council convened within the hour. 12 species, 47 scientists, and one very confused communications officer all crowded around the main display in the Eternal Inquiry's observation dome. The structures are artificial, said Dr. Pryn, a Velhari xenoarchaeologist whose translucent skin had gone nearly invisible with shock, her species' version of turning pale. The energy signatures confirm active habitation. Millions of inhabitants. Millions, repeated Ambassador Seth, a Drokai diplomat whose 6 legs shuffled nervously beneath his robes. Millions of what, exactly? No known civilization could survive Tier 14 conditions. We know of one. Vaylor pulled up the secondary file he had dreaded opening since the first diagnostic completed. The biological samples collected by the probe's atmospheric skimmer match a known database entry. He paused. They are human. The observation dome went completely silent. Then everyone started speaking at once. First contact protocol demanded a cautious approach. Vaylor overruled cautious. He requested a volunteer crew for direct atmospheric entry and, when the volunteer list returned exactly 0 names, he went himself. He also, against every professional instinct he possessed, invited the human exchange scholar currently stationed aboard the Eternal Inquiry. Her name was Neria. She was, by human standards, unremarkable in appearance, medium height, brown skin weathered by what she casually described as a lot of field work, hair pulled back in a practical knot. She wore no environmental suit when Vaylor found her in the observation lounge, despite the fact that the atmospheric recyclers on that deck were malfunctioning and oxygen content was running low enough that 3 xanthary researchers had already been evacuated. She was drinking something hot and reading a physical book. The planet, Vaylor said, projecting the KX-7 Mortalis data onto the lounge screen. You recognize it? Neria looked up. Looked at the data. Looked back at Vaylor. That's Earth, she said simply. Vaylor's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. You're home. Yeah. She took a sip of her drink. Looks like the probe caught it during monsoon season. See that storm system over the 3rd continent? That's normal for this time of year. Normal, Vaylor repeated, the word tasting foreign and deeply troubling in his mouth. Is that why you woke me up? She seemed genuinely curious, not defensive. You found Earth on a scan? We classified it, Vaylor said carefully, as a Class 14 Deathworld. Neria stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed. Not a polite laugh. Not a confused laugh. A full, genuine laugh that lasted nearly 20 seconds, during which Vaylor stood in complete stillness, processing the appropriate response to what appeared to be a psychological break. "Sorry," she finally said, wiping her eye. "Sorry, that's just class 14? Really? The survival probability for standard carbon-based life forms at your planet's surface conditions is 0.003%, Vaylor said stiffly. Huh. Neria considered this. That tracks, actually. Most species couldn't handle it. She said this with absolutely no pride, no boast, purely clinical acknowledgement, which somehow made it worse. "So what do you need from me?" "I need to understand," Vaylor said, "how your species lives there." The shuttle descent through Earth's atmosphere was the single most terrifying experience of Vaylor's 340-year scientific career. Lightning struck the hull 4 times before they cleared the upper cloud layer. The pressure differential as they dropped through the storm ceiling made the internal frame groan in ways that the structural integrity readout classified as concerning. Vaylor watched the temperature display swing 60 degrees in under 3 minutes during a localized weather event that Neria identified, glancing up briefly from her book, as just a thunderstorm. "Just," Vaylor said. She turned a page. They landed in a clearing near what Neria called a mid-sized city. Population, 8 million. Vaylor suited up in full environmental gear, pressure-rated, temperature-controlled, biologically filtered. The suit's external sensors immediately began cataloging threats: particulate matter, microbial density, ultraviolet radiation, ambient sound levels that exceeded safe hearing thresholds. Neria stepped out in light clothing. The city was loud. Not threatening loud, not the predatory sounds Vaylor had braced for, but the accumulated sound of millions of organisms simply existing in close proximity, unbothered by the gravity pulling at them, unbothered by the pressure, unbothered by the sun burning overhead with what Vaylor's suit classified as hazardous UV output. Children were running. Vaylor stopped walking entirely and watched a group of small humans, young ones, barely formed, sprinting across a flat open surface, screaming with what his translation matrix identified as joy. They fell down. They got up. They fell down again. They were laughing. "They are," Vaylor said slowly, "playing. Outside. In these conditions. Kids love the park," Neria said, following his gaze. A small smile crossed her face. "You okay? You've stopped moving." "I am processing," Vaylor said. He processed for another 40 seconds. "On my homeworld," he said finally, "we classify a storm of 0.3 your Earth standard as a level 2 atmospheric emergency. Schools close. Citizens shelter. What happens in a level 5? Neria asked. "There has never been a level 5. She nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something she had suspected. "You want to see something?" She took him to the coast. The ocean. Vaylor had read about Earth's oceans, had read about them with the comfortable distance of academic horror. 71% surface coverage. Depths reaching 11 kilometers. Temperature variance from near freezing to warm tropical. Home to organisms ranging from microscopic to the largest animals ever recorded in the known galaxy. And humans swam in it. Voluntarily. For recreation. They know what lives in there? Vaylor asked, watching a group of humans wade into the surf, laughing as waves, each one carrying enough kinetic energy to shatter the walls of a Zinthari research station, crashed around their legs. Of course. Neria shrugged. There are some spots you avoid. Jellyfish season, shark breeding grounds, rip currents. You learn the rules. And if something attacks? Then you deal with it. She said it the way someone might say, then you carry an umbrella. Simple contingency. Minor inconvenience. Vaylor thought about the Galactic Consortium's threat assessment for Earth's oceans, which contained the word unsurvivable 17 times. How, he asked, and he was no longer asking as a scientist. He was asking as a person standing next to someone who had grown up in a nightmare and called it a home. Did your species survive long enough to become what you are? Neria was quiet for a moment, watching the waves. We didn't survive despite this planet, she said finally. We survived because of it. She picked up a stone and turned it over in her fingers. Everything here wanted to kill us. The predators, the weather, the geology, the microbes. We didn't have speed or claws or armor or venom. So we got something else instead. What? She glanced at him sideways, and there was something in her expression that Valor would spend the rest of his long career trying to accurately describe in his research papers. Stubbornness, she said. Then she threw the stone into the ocean, watching it disappear into the waves, and smiled like someone who had already made peace with every single thing in the universe that had ever tried to stop her. Valor looked at the ocean. At the city behind them. At the children still running in the park despite the gravity and the pressure and the radiation. He opened his recorder. He thought about how to begin his report to the consortium. He thought for a long time. Finally, he wrote. Reclassification recommended. KX-7 Mortalis designation Earth should not be classified as a death world. It should be classified as something for which we do not yet have a word. The humans did not conquer this planet. They did not tame it. They simply refused, across 10,000 years of impossible odds, to leave. I have met many brave species in my career. I have never met a species that made bravery look this ordinary. He paused. Added one final line. We should be very glad they are our allies.